Across Asia and the rest of the world, we are witnessing an unprecedented wave of urbanization. More than half of us now live in towns and cities, and our pursuit of a better life that urbanization can offer us has cost us our green spaces where our plants and animals used to thrive. But not all is lost. As CNA Correspondent discovers, some have found ways to carve out corners in our cities, so our nature still has a place to flourish within our concrete jungles. Just 45 minutes outside Delhi lies a bird watcher's paradise. Mangar Bunny, or the Sacred Grove, is home to hundreds of species during the peak bird watching season from October to March.
It's quite big. In season, which is now for the Indian pitta, you'll find a lot of birds coming here every weekend.
Nikhil Devasar set up the Delhi Bird Foundation 2 decades ago. With a passion for birds, he linked up with like-minded people. He's taking me under his wing today. We are trying to spot the Indian pitta.
So the Indian pitta calling from there. It has a high-pitched two-note call, and it comes now to breed in this area. It's calling from there somewhere.
We can't see anything though.
Not yet, but hopefully, yes, you'll see them shortly.
Another call, another disappointment. The Indian pitta is proving to be elusive, just like other magnificent creatures in the jungle that demand patience.
This is the tiger of birds, huh?
No luck spotting the pitta, but that hasn't dampened our spirits, as there's still plenty for bird watchers in Mangar Bunny, including India's national bird, the peacock. And dozens of other species that flock here from all over the country for this forest's rich biodiversity of plants, nuts, worms and insects, here in India's national capital region of New Delhi, or NCR.
So we must try and save these little patches of forest that we have left in the NCR now.
And not many of these are left, are there?
Not many of these are left because they are being taken up for different purposes, for agriculture, for development.
All this was once a wetland along the Yamuna River. In winters, flamingos would flock here, right in the heart of New Delhi. But now rampant urbanization is killing the habitat quickly here and across the nation, threatening bird life at an unprecedented scale.
Nobody is really interested in saving the birds, nobody. In fact, the Indian bustard, for that matter, is the last small pocket left in Jaisalmer where it's found almost. And the numbers in the wild are under 100.
ऐसी चिड़िया उसके अंदर आती थी क्योंकि मेरे घर के ऊपर के पोर्शन में ना, छत के ऊपर बहुत सारी ब्रिक्स निकाली हुई थी, उनमें चिड़ियों ने घर बना रखे थे। अच्छा, घोंसला बचपन से देख रहे थे। अच्छा, हम क्योंकि पुरानी दिल्ली का मकान था तो इतने ग्राउंड वगैरह तो होते नहीं थे।
To save other species from suffering the same fate, Rakesh Khatri has taken it upon himself to improve the habitat of small birds common to urban areas like the sparrow or the manna. For the past 20 years, he's been putting up these nests all over India, 1.2 million and counting. It's earned him the moniker Nest Man of India.
अच्छे लगा देते हैं, बड़े बड़े मीटर बॉक्स तक बंद कर देते हैं। पंखों के ऊपर जो जगह होती थी उसको हमने छत से चिपका दिया, तो चिड़िया के जो बेसिक रहने के ट्रेडिशनल जितनी भी जगह थी वो हमने सब फिनिश कर दी।
Humans and birds co-inhabiting has become a rarity in this metro city. But Rakesh hopes that his nests give a home to birds whose natural habitat has been destroyed by human activity. Most of his nests are immediately taken up by small birds. And each nest is good for a small flock and can be reused at least 3 times.
आपने 3 बार इसको यूज़ किया और ये वापस नेचर में मिल जाएंगे।
आप जमीन में डाल देंगे, खाद बन जाएगा थोड़े दिन के अंदर। इसमें है ही क्या?
Solving the problem of where the birds should live safely is only one part of the solution. Wildlife SOS has been getting hundreds of bird injury calls a day. Only just a few years ago, the number was a fifth of that. The black kite is an Indian raptor, a hunter that's fallen prey to shabby human construction and poor urban planning.
You can see so much of wiring work which is in the open, so the animals end up hitting these kind of things because it's not planned properly, keeping the urban wildlife in mind.
Skyscrapers are another threat. To a bird, this looks like endless sky. Many ram straight into it. Either the impact kills them or the fall hundreds of feet below. It's one of the biggest causes of injury for birds that wildlife SOS deal with.
Because these things, end of the day, they disorient a bird. A bird can get confused and distressed. We have to see that, some places in Delhi need to be identified which can be undisturbed spots only for the, wildlife that is around us.
But instead of increasing its green belt, Delhi actually lost forest cover between 2019 and 2021. This is the city's first ever loss of forest cover in a decade, during a period when nationally forest cover has increased and when the Indian capital already has a lower proportion of forest cover than the national average. This colonial-era garden in the heart of New Delhi is one of the very few last remaining areas with a decent forest cover as the city constantly expands. It's a living proof that even if there are small patches of undisturbed greenery, they can result in a thriving wildlife.
So this is a mix of domestic and wild birds.
In her book Wild and Willful, Neha has explored the conservation of 15 iconic Indian birds and animal species. Many of them are often associated with the pantheon of Hindu gods, and their divine connection may inspire India's largely religious population to make a push towards the conservation of birds.
Lakshmi has an owl, Saraswati has a swan, Kartik has a peacock. Generally, every god is associated with a bird or an animal. So in a way, we see birds and animals reflected in culture around us.
So it would be fair to say that if you can tell a great story around why conservation is important, using culture and tradition, people become all the more attached to it.
Absolutely. And I think nobody wants to do something just because you're asking them to. They want to have a purpose or a motive to do it. Sometimes that motive is tradition or it's religion or it's culture.
Religious teachings of Jainism are at the foundation of this bird hospital. Causing no harm to any living organism is the guiding principle in Jainism. Saving a creature's life, one of the highest virtues for anyone.
ये तरीके का एक तरह का अभयदान हुआ, जैसे कि आपने एक जानवर जो पहले से ही एक कैद की ज़िंदगी जी रहा था, तो उसको एक मुक्त कर दिया गया, उसको रिलीज़ कर दिया गया, तो उसको जो उसको डर था उससे उसको उसका अभय हो गया, मतलब जो भी उसका.
But this courage comes slowly and painfully.
ये मांझे में फंस गया था, जिसकी वजह से इंजर्ड हो गया है.
This pigeon has already been here for a few days.
जो कि इससे पूरा साफ हो जाता अच्छी तरह से.
He's in pain and unable to move. It may still take it another 3 weeks to be fully well. Some of these are so badly injured that they may never fly again. It's a testament to the severe damage human activities have caused bird life. India's nestman Rakesh Khatri wants to nip the problem in the bud. And he thinks one of the best ways to do it is to educate the next generation about the importance of conservation.
एक अच्छा काम है और ये बहुत अच्छा काम है कि आप किसी को घर दें. अगर आप किसी को घर देंगे तो ब्लेसिंग्स आपके पास बहुत बड़ी तादाद में आएंगी.
He's teaching school kids how to make the nests that he has used to help millions of birds across the country. The world may be in better hands tomorrow than it is today, as the seeds of compassion for wildlife are already taking roots.
Reuse, reduce, recycle and respect. We should respect our nature because nature gives us a lot and we have to do something in return.
Conservationists like Rakesh say they can rest assured knowing they have passed on the mantle into capable hands. But the immediate steps that are required need strong political will. These birds not only need immediate assistance in the form of better urban planning, but also in the form of strong policy that protects their natural habitat. Their survival is directly linked with our entire natural ecosystem, making coexistence possibly the best natural solution possible.
Our first instinct when we see a swarm of bees like this is to probably run as fast as we can. But John Chong is instead drawn to them like they would be to honey.
Hello, John.
Hello,
my name is Milton.
Welcome to Bee and Maze Garden. It's my honor.
John Chong was first a teacher and then a school vice principal in Singapore, working in education for 37 years. Now, he is one of Singapore's rare but growing number of beekeepers. The 63-year-old started Bee Amazed Garden 5 years ago in Yishun. His interest in bees came unintentionally during a field trip to Malaysia.
We went to Penang to do some field studies, and from that trip, we went to an archaeological site in Kedah. And then when we were there, after visiting the archaeological site, just next to it, there was a bee farm. And the owner invited us to go to his bee farm. And I thought, wow, how could we go to the bees? What would happen if my students will get stung or my teachers were stung by bees? But then the owner assured us, these are all stingless bees. And I had been a science teacher for many years, and I never knew that there were stingless bees.
When he retired, he created Bee Amazed Garden to tell more people about bees and how important they are to us as well.
Because basically bees, there's a lot of mystery about bees, right? And then of course there are a lot of scary tales, like killer bees out of harm and things like that. At Bee Amazed Garden, we want to debunk and then want to dispel this fear. So they are so important for food security, for biodiversity. So I thought I want to present them in a proper light.
There are many pollinators in natural ecosystems around the world, like ants, moths, and butterflies. But bees, specifically honeybees, are probably one of the most important. Pollination is a process through which plants reproduce, and bees play the important role of carrying pollen from plant to plant so that they can do so.
So without bees, imagine without bees, a lot of world food production will be lost. And then of course with increasing world population, right? So actually the contribution of bees to food, to eliminating hunger is really very critical and essential one.
I wanted to know more about these tiny heroes, so we suited up and headed into the hives. It's about 39 degrees today, and these suits feel really hot. But it is a layer of protection against bee stings, though John tells me I really don't have that much to fear about being stung.
So I have a tagline as well, especially to the ladies. Hello, you are very pretty and you are very sweet, but you are not a flowers. So sorry, the bees are not interested in you. Why would they come and sting you? Because if they sting us, they will die. Okay, now just to demonstrate to you, if we move slowly, the bees cannot see us. So now we are standing by the side, and I move my hands to the bees, just for demonstration's sake. But then, members of the audience, spectators, don't follow this because I know how to read the bees, okay?
Don't do this at home.
Yeah, don't do this at home. See, I'm not moving. Right? See, I'm not moving. They don't even bother me.
According to John, there are 5 types of honeybees in Singapore. John keeps 2 species on his bee farm, the Asian honeybees, and the black dwarf bees. He has altogether 8 colonies of bees. Each colony numbers from 10,000 to 30,000 bees. The bees produce honey, but in John's case, he doesn't harvest them. To produce a kilogram of honey, John says, the bees need to find nectar from some 2 million flowers. And although Singapore has flowers, they are just not enough to enable the bees to produce copious amounts of honey. The bees also feed on honey, so harvesting it will weaken the colony, depriving them of the food they need. Apart from keeping bees, John also carries on his previous role as an educator, teaching more people about bees.
Some write to me, they want to learn beekeeping as a hobby. And right now I have taught about 13 people in Singapore to keep bees in their own backyard garden.
John's ultimate aim is to stir up interest and make Singapore a more bee-friendly country.
More bee-friendly shrubs, more bee-friendly trees, and these all have beneficial effect. Of course, maybe they can contribute in a small way to this fight against climate change. Climate change is a result of what? Because of cutting down too many trees, right? And then now when we set up more bee sanctuary, automatically we have to plant more bee-friendly flowers. And let's talk about sustainability, right? So all this can gel very well together. So, and this kind of, when it works, this kind of can scale up to many cities all over the world.
Bees have a role, but we too can play a part in sustainability. When we come back, we dive into the world of sustainable farming and composting in Singapore's concrete jungle. This is what a feast for young black soldier flies looks like. They are feeding on food waste we throw out and turning it into black gold. Compost, a mixture of broken down organic matter, is also known as black gold as it improves the quality of soil. Any organic matter will decompose naturally over time, but composting speeds up the process by providing the right condition for organisms breaking down the matter, such as black fly larvae, to thrive.
So as you can see here, this is food waste. We will turn all these food waste into useful things like animal feed and also fertilizer. So now, for example, this apple, it's full of nutrient. After you eat all the nice part, what's left behind is the apple core. Though we can't eat the apple core is still full of nutrient. So what we do is, by feeding it to the black soldier fly, we merely just transferring the nutrient from one form to another. And their excrement, which is their frass, actually is a great fertilizer. Because their digestive system is so strong, they're able to kill all the bacteria there. That is why the frass is totally not smelly.
I meet Khor Tak Kwan, a passionate environmentalist at this facility located at Tampines Park. Residents living here in the Tampines neighborhood provide food waste, which is then fed to the black soldier fly larvae.
The objective is to educate them about, like, hey, don't waste food, auntie, we check the expiry date, So waste less is always the first step. We want to explain to them. The goal is not to give us as much as possible. That's not, the objective.
In Singapore, food forms more than half of the total waste we throw out every day. And in the past 10 years, the total amount of food waste generated in Singapore has increased by 20%. So if we can reduce the amount of food we throw out, that would greatly ease the burden on our rubbish disposal facilities. The excrement from Tak Guan's black fly larvae are the first link in an organic food cycle in local communities. They are an ideal fertilizer for vegetable gardens. The larvae are fed to the tilapia at the local fish farm. and further down the food chain, these vegetables and fish are then given back to the community, providing a small but sustainable food source within the local community. On a larger scale, Beyond Low is conducting sustainable farming and also selling local produce for businesses.
The intention was always to start a farm here. The goal was really to bring attention and on the importance of food production and sustainable food production and being self-sustainable in that for a small nation state like Singapore.
Singapore depends heavily on imported food, but thanks to passionate environmentalists, Singapore can reduce its reliance on food imports as homegrown supplies from edible gardens are sprouting all over the country.
Singapore aims to produce 30% of our nutritional needs locally and sustainably by 2030. Current domestic production is less than 10%. But Edible Garden City is helping to put Singapore on that path. The company, which won Singapore's President Award for the Environment in 2021 for its work, is helping local building owners to design their own roof gardens.
Today, we do have so many rooftops that are greened, so many buildings, facades that are green. We just need to kind of shift the mindset of how do we produce food in these spaces.
For an additional layer of security, Beyond says that we should look into growing more plants that are native in this region.
So one of the few things that we are working on is really discovering heritage native plants, food plants that are not widely consumed today in Singapore. Plants like the Ulum Raja, for example, which is in translation, king of salads, that thrive in our local environment, that requires very little inputs, that does not really attract pests because they have already established themselves in this region. So today, to find these plants, for example, as a vegetable in the markets like Geylang Serai, is also quite tough because there's no demand.
Beyond's hopes for the future of edible gardens is ultimately to spread his sustainability model to the world.